Tell me if you've heard this one before. The San Francisco 49ers defense holds the opposing team to a field goal, while the offense on the very next drive with the chance to win blows it. Brock Purdy throws an interception, and the San Francisco 49ers lose again. I know it feels like that has been every single game this year, or at least a lot of the games this year for the San Francisco 49ers. Welcome into 49ers Access. My name is Sterling Bennett, and today we are reacting to the San Francisco 49ers Week 16 29-17 loss to the Miami Dolphins. And this was a boring, stuck in the mud, just kind of trudging along football game. It was one San Francisco, like almost every other game they've lost this year, had in their hands, had every opportunity to win, but let it slip through their hands. I would not classify this as a game the Dolphins won per se. They did, obviously, when it was all said and done, but the Dolphins didn't play great football. San Francisco just played worse football, if that was the way to classify this one for the San Francisco 49ers. A lot of mistakes, a lot of blunders, terrible offensive line play, key turnovers late in games, and a lot of undisciplined football when it mattered most. But that has been your 2024 San Francisco 49ers. They just continue to find ways to get in their own way, whether it is, again, late penalties in this game, personal fouls, 3 of them on the day for San Francisco, just having a hard time making sense of a really bad season. But the great thing is that the offseason's coming soon, and you can look at a game like this, like many others as well, and point to it and say, well, that's where they can improve. That's where they have to get better if they want to refine or reclaim their spot atop the NFC. Want to ask you to like, share, subscribe, and let's react to a Week 16 blunder in Miami down at Hard Rock Stadium, the place that I wouldn't say haunts San Francisco, but this is their consecutive loss down there in Miami. Their last coming in the Super Bowl against the Kansas City Chiefs. And I want to start with the head coach. I know Bobo in the YouTube comments says here, I wish I could see what everyone else sees in Kyle the Choke Shanahan and Brock Purdy, because I see nothing good. I see nothing but choke jobs and the inability to win close games. We will definitely get to Brock Purdy because, a lot of good, but just still some bad. That said, I want to start with the head coach, because a lot is going to be made from a season like this, which makes sense. You're 6-9. You have clinched the last place spot in the NFC West. You have clinched an under 500 season for the first time since 2020, which there's many similarities in these two seasons, mainly injuries, but obviously poor play amongst many others, but not a great year. And when you don't have a great year after losing 2 Super Bowls, at one in overtime in heartbreaking fashion, you are going to get a ton of criticism thrown your way, and rightfully so. Kyle Shanahan deserves that. Now, maybe I wouldn't go as far as to say fire Kyle Shanahan. Kyle Shanahan is locked in this contract. He's not going anywhere. He is certainly going to be at least here for one more season. And once they pay Brock Purdy, whether it's $50 million or $65 million, he's going to be here. And this is going to be a quarterback and head coaching tandem tied to each other for the foreseeable future. That said, my issues with Kyle Shanahan in this game don't revolve around play calling. I thought Kyle called a relatively good game. The Dolphins defense is top 10. And I thought the Niners offense, like at least play calling wise, was fine. There were screen passes involved. They were getting plays to Pearsall. Deebo was getting plays and looked pretty good. Everything really was going fine. They were just losing late in the football game. But then in that third quarter, that's when things took a dive and miss a field goal, a couple penalties here or there, and an interception, then things go down. That said, I think my issue with Kyle Shanahan this year, a lot of this year, has been the undisciplined nature of the San Francisco 49ers. And in a game like this where you, before kickoff, learn that your season is over, that you learn that we're playing for essentially nothing. Like, we're playing for draft stock or pride, right? Or maybe playing to spoil the Dolphins season, which I would love to do so, but you're not really playing for anything to benefit you, right? But in a game like this, when you're in this kind of last weird stretch where you're like, we have to play, we're obligated to play. We don't want to, but we have to. You're hoping to find the good things, the silver linings, how you can make the team better. Maybe it's rotations that work. Maybe it's trying new things and getting creative and being ballsy. Maybe it is, putting in different offensive linemen or different receivers and trying new formations. Just saying, you know what, like, let's throw things at the wall and see what sticks. A lot of times this year, we have seen the Niners be undisciplined on offense mainly. And it has hurt them in so many ways, whether it's a brutal holding call or a false start or illegal formations like in this game. But the Niners today, for a team that has had, for the most part, a roster that has carried over since 2021, 22, and 23 into the season, the undisciplined nature of this roster is just baffling to me. 3 personal fouls for unnecessary roughness on defense. Talanoa Hufanga, Jordan Elliott is blatantly diving late into a player who's already on the ground. Like, what are we doing? What are you trying to accomplish? You're doing nothing good. Then Deommodore Lenoir gets called for rather ticky-tack, like shove, which even Jim Nantz on the CBS broadcast was like, really? Like, my wife hits me more than that. Like, come on. Like, that's a foul. But then on offense, there's illegal formations, there's holding calls, there's delayed games. And it's just like a team that has had the same coach since 2017 and roughly a very similar roster for a large chunk of their postseason runs should not be giving away 90 free yards on 11 penalties. Like, that to me is the most frustrating thing. It's having to call timeouts. Like, it's really frustrating for a team that, while we can admit that isn't going anywhere, the way they played this year, they didn't deserve to go anywhere. But you would like to see, okay, like, if we're not going to be able to execute because you don't have the personnel, fine. You can improve personnel. That's what the draft's for and free agency's for. But being undisciplined, you can't teach that. Like, that's just a player, like, going out on their own and doing things. Now, a random holding call here or there, fine, that happens every player, but we're talking about, like, after the whistle. We're talking about, like, not knowing where you're lining up. Like, that's like, how do you not know that? Like, how has the head coach or the coaching staff not prepared you to know that? And how, as a player, do you not know what you're doing? Right? Like, that is one of the most frustrating parts of this game. But other than that, like, I really don't put this game on Kyle Shanahan. I don't think the conversation should be around Kyle or his future as a head coach. I don't blame him for this. Now, I think a lot of the issues in this game were personnel. And I think a lot of the issues, what I mean by that is just the personnel not doing their job, not executing. Let's talk about Brock Purdy. I thought Brock Purdy was really good for most of this football game. Now, the box score will tell you he was incredible. I don't think he was incredible, but Brock Purdy he was 26 for 40, 313 yards. Some of those coming in garbage time, mind you, but 2 touchdowns. His rating was pretty good. Like, I didn't look at Brock and was like, oh my God, that was disgusting. But here's my main problem with Brock Purdy. And I get quarterback is the most contentious position in all of sports. It's either you pay them or you don't. They're good or they stink. It really is no in between when it comes to the quarterback position. But I do think that when you're having a conversation of, do you want to pay Brock Purdy $50 million, $65 million? Do you want to reset the quarterback market with the quarterback like Brock Purdy? You have to look at things on, like, the microscope level and start to nitpick everything. And when I watched this game, like made me feel eerily similar to that Cardinals game, I think in week 5 earlier this year. The Niners defense does their job, right? It's going to be tough, but they do their job. They hold the Cardinals to a field goal late. They're winning. The Cardinals are winning 24-23. The defense bends, doesn't break, and it gives the offense a chance. Very similar in this game, right? The Niners get it to 19-17. They don't put any points on the board, but as things go by, the Dolphins make it 22-17. You're down by 5. Great. You have 2 minutes and 10 seconds, and you have 3 timeouts. So you have roughly 1 play, the 2-minute warning. Then you have 3 timeouts to play. You can milk the clock. You can take a deep shot downfield. Like you have, like everything's on the table for you. The clock is not a problem. You're not worried about rushing. It is like, this is exactly what you want for a franchise quarterback per se, right? Your quarterback, the guy you want to pay $65 million to, 3 timeouts, just over 2 minutes on the clock, down by 5. Give me a touchdown. Give me a game-winning touchdown. March me down all the way and score me some points and win this game for us. And again, just like that Cardinals game, the Niners have 1 play, maybe 2, and then boom, interception. And it's Brock forcing a throw that doesn't have to be made. Now, I completely understand that Purdy was hammered by Calais Campbell on the throw. Unfortunately, even if he's not hit, that's still a poor decision in a throw that you have to layer over a defender that is a very dangerous attempt to make. Why? I get it. You want to make a big play, but there's no reason to press. It's first, second down. You're early in your drive. You have no reason to do anything crazy. It's literally first down. Just like the Rams game a week and a half ago on Thursday Night Football. Why are you trying to dot a pass into double coverage to Juwan Jennings 40 yards downfield? Take your check down, live to fight another play, and give you a 2nd and 5 with 3 timeouts left. Brock is a quarterback that is limited in what he can do physically. Now, with that said, he's in that grouping of a Dak Prescott, a Kirk Cousins when he was he's younger and healthier, not 37 years old post Achilles injury. He's around the kind of Sam Darnold, but even Darnold has a better arm. But the Baker Mayfields, right? He's in that Baker Mayfield grouping of quarterbacks that are kind of B+ tier quarterbacks, and there's levels involved in the rankings themselves. But I don't think anybody would have complained had Brock's contract been up after the Super Bowl last season and they paid him. We all would have said, "Yep, we love Brock, great." But this year, and I don't want this to be a referendum on his career, because 2.5 years don't get erased because of one bad season. Plenty of quarterbacks have bad years. That said, we have seen Brock Purdy against the Cardinals, against the Rams as of last week, and against the Dolphins today, amongst other times, maybe outside of the Buccaneers game, where backed against the wall, you have 1 drive to play with, and he throws an interception on a pass that does not need to be made. Like Bobo says here, Brock Purdy has failed pretty much every 2-minute drill he's ever encountered. Maybe not ever encountered, but this year, the prevailing thought is I don't really know a game outside of the Buccaneers game where Brock has looked like the franchise quarterback, where in my mind, I'm like, if I want to pay you $65, $60, $50 million a year, I need you to be the best you can possibly be in moments like that, where maybe special teams is bad. Maybe, say, the defense is bad late. The offensive line is not playing great. And obviously there are things quarterbacks can't overcome. Terrible offensive lines just ruin offenses. We've seen it all year. Saw it today. But you are supposed to be able to overcome those. Despite those issues, pick us up. Despite how bad we are, Joe Burrow led a terrible Bengals offensive line. He was sacked the 2nd most ever in football history in a season, and he led them to a Super Bowl. that's what you're expecting. Like, hey, can you mask some of the problems we have? And Brock certainly masks some problems, but in the biggest games of the year, in the biggest moments of the year, it's like you have to be the one that can win in spite of the problems around you. Now, some things you can't control, injuries to your backup, to your left tackle, your backup left tackle, your left guard, your backup left guard. Like, you can't help those things. You can't help you have your fifth string running back. Like, those are things you just can't, like, okay. And some things are tough to overcome. But the problem is with Brock, at least this year, not last year, not 2 years ago, but this year, it really comes down to with Brock not being the physical specimen that Josh Allen is. Many aren't, but not Josh Allen. He doesn't have the arm or the ability to make the massive 65-yard throw downfield like Mahomes has been in previous seasons. Or say Joe Burrow, who can make any throw in any place, is evasive. Like, he's not those guys. He isn't Lamar Jackson, despite what people want to believe about his 10-yard split. Like, he's not Lamar Jackson, right? But so Brock relies on his ability to go through his reads, to have good decision-making, and to make plays, albeit maybe not 65-yard throws, but make big plays at times. But Brock, I don't know what it's been this year, when the decision-making becomes poor, when the ability to process everything on the field goes away. Who is Brock Purdy? Well, he's 6-9 as a starting quarterback, or I guess 6-8 this year because he missed the Packers game. Like, that's what you want? Like, that's what you're paying for? And obviously there are certain games this year where Brock played great. The Rams game week 3 was not his fault. Ronnie Bell's dropped pass and Moody's missed field goal. Like, there's nuance to this conversation for sure. But in a game like this where you're playing for nothing outside of your own pride and you're like, okay, 2 minutes and 10 seconds left, 3 timeouts, 2-minute warning still there. You got Kittle, who had 100+ yards today. Deebo Samuel was the best he had been all year, although I hate that he waited till this time of the year to do this. He was phenomenal today. Like, looked like all-pro Deebo. And like, you have Juwan Jennings, and although Pearsall struggled in this one, in regards to knowing the offense, like, you have your full arsenal minus Christian McCaffrey and Ayuk, but I can argue you haven't had those guys all year, so who cares they're not playing? Like, you have to learn to play with what you have, and you haven't had those guys for 95% of the year. This has been your offense the whole year, basically. And to force a throw like that when you don't have to, like, that is when you look at Brock and you say, I like you. I really like you, but we're talking about paying you $65 million. Like, that's when you have to start questioning things, combing through all the files, all the receipts of like, well, there's this. Well, that was great. Well, then this is really bad here. And I can't think of a time outside of the Buccaneers game where this Niners offense, led by Brock Purdy, was down with 2 minutes left this season and came back. And the throws are there, but it's more so about living to fight the next down. Brock said earlier in the week that he had been focused on being too perfect at times, which you can see there had been this kind of tightness he'd been playing with, this I don't want to call it not freedom, but he wasn't playing very loose. There were times he was kind of afraid to make throws and push throws downfield. You can go on a PFF.com and you can see his big time throws are like cratered all the way down because he doesn't have the personnel and he doesn't trust this team and his receivers to be able to make those throws. But I can also say Brock Purdy weeks 1 through 5 looks completely different from Brock Purdy in week 16. He looks more timid. He looks, I don't know, like in those 2-minute drills, it's like he tightens up. And that's not who Brock was through 3.5 quarters of this game. He's running around, making plays, scrambling. Like, I know there's pressure on you. The offensive line was completely terrible today. Moore was fine. When Burford came in, he was fine. But, like, Banks was terrible. Jake Brendel was, like, god-awful as he has been all year. And even Pooney he wasn't his best game either. And McKivitz got bull rushed almost back into Purdy on what would have been a touchdown pass to George Kittle. Like, there are plays that were about to be made. There were plays that should have been made. Like, you cannot put it any other way that Ricky Pearsall cost this team 7 points today. And Jake Moody missing a field goal cost this team at least 3 points today. Like, that would have been, wow, Brock Purdy, great. And maybe we're talking about something different. But despite that, despite Pearsall's penalties and the missed field goal, with 2:10, with 2:10 left, despite everything that went wrong, you have an opportunity to erase that. To say, wow, you struggled all game, or the offense struggled, the defense. Like, you can erase the entire team's woes. Clean slate, 2:10 left, you're down, you score, you likely win. And like that Cardinals game earlier this year, throws that unnecessary pick by forcing a throw against the Rams 2 weeks ago, or a week and a half ago now. Just forcing a throw downfield you don't have to make, a dangerous throw you don't have to make. And it's like, I'd rather you take the sack at that point or just throw the ball away. Like, you can be smart and have these, like, I was trying to reach that receiver, and you can down a ball or throw it where nobody's at and be like, oh, well, whatever. Like, it's just not good decision making. And for a quarterback that wants to get paid and is expected to be the elite or one of the greatest quarterbacks in the league now, he ain't playing like it when it matters most. And had he not thrown a pick against the Rams, maybe that game's different. Had you not thrown a pick against, say, the Cardinals early in the year, maybe you're still playing for the NFC West division. Now, so many other things went wrong in this game and during the year that you can't blame Brock for everything. But in that microcosm moment of 2 minutes and 10 seconds, who else are we supposed to blame? And it's happened multiple times this season. Against the Rams, against the Cardinals, and this one, like, you just point back and you're like you're missing throws that you have to make. And it just, like, when I think of, and a lot of the conversation will become, okay, if Brock is in that Dak Prescott category, and what I mean by that is, like, there's the Mahomes, there's the Allen, there's the Burrows, there's the Lamar Jacksons of the world, and, like, those are the elite top 5. In that second tier, you have, like, CJ Stroud, who's having a bad year, mind you, and you have your Jordan Loves and your Jared Goffs and more involved in there too. But then you have your Brock Purdy's, your Dak Prescott's, your Jared Goffs, your Kirk Cousins when he's healthy, your Baker Mayfields and company. You have all those guys. Like, the Cowboys are sitting back like, we have hamstrung ourselves. We can't pay for free agents. Like, we have Dak and CeeDee, and we may get to pay Micah Parsons. And, like, I'm not saying Brock is Dak Prescott. I'm just saying, because there's been performances like this a lot this year, where down to the wire, you need a touchdown, Brock is the one making the biggest mistake. And yes, Nathan, you are 1,000% correct. Brock was trying to layer a throw, but the pressure caused the throw to be short of his intended target. All that's true. He was trying to get the ball to Jawan Jennings, but go back and watch the play. It is a throw that is forced, that doesn't need to be made. It is a pass that is a very dangerous throw to make in that place and time. And I get pressures there. It's bearing down on you. And sometimes, and look, it's so hard for me to say on the couch, being the armchair quarterback, like, well, why didn't you do this? But sometimes you got to live and die by the quarterback's decision. But that said, it's like, it's not a good decision either way. Whether the pressure is there or not, it's not a good decision. And, again, I thought Brock was really good. And in that drive, there was, like, the utmost confidence they were going to win this game. And I think that just a bad decision to make in that moment. And when Brock doesn't have this elite processing, decision-making throw he usually has, you have to question, like, what else is left? And I think that's where I'm kind of at, where I'm not out on keeping Brock Purdy and paying Brock Purdy. I still believe in Brock Purdy, but when you talk about putting a market value, a price tag next to someone's name, I was full bore paying whatever you want to 10 weeks ago. Now it's like, hey, do you want $50 million? Hey, how about a 3-year, $100 million deal like Baker Mayfield took? I think that to me feels much more comfortable. Like that, I would do a Baker Mayfield type contract tomorrow. Um, but obviously, market value wouldn't do that. But Nathan also says here he had to throw, and we've seen him make layered throws time and time again, but he had zero time to do anything, so he rushed it and getting hit at the same time. Okay, pressure's there in your face. With the game on the line, with 3 timeouts, I can't have my quarterback rushing throws into coverage. Now, this was a much better attempt decision than the Rams throw to Jawan Jennings in the end zone. Much better attempt, much better decision than that. Like that one was like god awful. There was no chance the ball was getting caught. This one, had he not been hit, the throw would have at least given Jawan a chance, which, okay, maybe that's all you asked for. But I'm sitting back like you have 3 timeouts, 2 minutes to go. Like you don't need to force anything. If the throw isn't there, move on. And that pocket collapsed real quick. He got hit. I totally get it. But there are throws to be made that are much safer that can keep your drive alive instead of forcing a throw downfield when you don't have to. I like that's my qualm, if you will. Like my issue isn't Purdy wanting to try to make that throw. It's the fact that in a moment like that, you don't need to make that throw. You have plenty of time on the clock. If it's an incomplete pass, so what? Move on. You have 3 timeouts. It's 2nd down and 10. Like you're okay. You're already in 4th down territory, no matter what. And you throw a pick. And it's like, okay, like that's what you can't do. And I like Brock a lot. I thought Brock was making, like, with his legs today, Brock Purdy was great. He was making Greg. That throw to George Kittle over the middle was incredible. Was just awesome. And it was like a layered throw over the center of the field, over the middle of the field, and you're like, bang. Like, that is what you're like, that's why you pay Brock Purdy. The pass to Pearsall early in the game for like 20 yards was a timing route on like the left hash, bang, on the money. Like, oh my goodness. Like, that's awesome. That's great. Like, that is why you pay Brock Purdy. And even that throw to Deebo Samuel that got called back by Pearsall's foul. Like, that's a great throw. Like, there are so many examples in this game as to why you pay Brock Purdy, but unfortunately, we're going to look back at this game and say, well, 2 minutes and 10 seconds left on the clock. That's why you don't pay Brock Purdy. Like, it like, you can't be great for, 45 minutes or 55 minutes, and then in the last 5 minutes, gamble the game away. That's what gets the Kirk Cousins label. That's what gets the Dak Prescott label. Like, that is why, you kind of sit back and you're like, oh, like, I like Brock. He's a great dude. He's a great person. I believe in Brock. The history of success is there with Brock, but there is this, like, maybe we should calm down the conversation of like $65 billion. Like, no, maybe it should be around 50. Maybe it's around 45 per year. Like, again, that Baker Mayfield contract makes some sense. But again, I don't think one game changes that. I don't think that, like this year, by the way Kyle Shanahan has talked, it has very much been like, no, Brock's a guy, we're paying Brock no matter what. Like, the personnel around him is not great. Like, so be it. Like, they still believe Brock's a guy. And I don't blame them. Like, Brock has been really great for the previous 2 years and at times this year, but this microcosm to 2 minutes and 10 seconds, like, really was like, oh, I don't know if I can buy into that completely. But let me get to some of your YouTube comments here in the chat. A lot of them here about Brock Purdy. See if I can go through these pretty quickly here on the right. Tommy Huxley says Brock Purdy has failed the 2-minute drill pretty badly. But Buffs Suck says Kyle lost the most games in Niner coaching history, and Harbaugh had 0 losing seasons when he was fired. Who does Kyle? Whose D does Kyle suck? Kyle's also been more successful than Jim Harbaugh, and didn't have quite the mess Harbaugh had. Don't forget, like, Smith was there, Gore was there, Davis was there. Most of the defense was already in place before Harbaugh got there. He just kind of built upon the foundation that was already there and took it to new heights. So I get it. We all love Jim. Jim's doing great things with the Chargers this year, but very different beginnings. And obviously, even then, like, Harbaugh only went to 1 Super Bowl. Shanahan's been to 2. Albeit he lost, he's been to 2. Let's see what else we have here. Tommy Huxley says Baker is better. I wouldn't go that far. But look, I really do love myself some Baker Mayfield. My hat is an Oklahoma Sooner hat. I am Boomer Sooner until I die. And I love Baker. He's a dog. Like, he fights all the time. But Purdy's better than Baker Mayfield. Like, he really is. Let's see what we got. Bobo says here that, like I said, great quarterbacks win in spite of, and Brock can't and shows no signs he ever will. I don't think he hasn't shown signs. Again, that Rams game on week 3, when he had no Deebo, had no Kittle, had no Ayuk really, although he played, he wasn't really relevant. It was just him and Jawan playing catch really. Like, there are signs. It's just not been consistent, and unfortunately, like, not been enough. And that's why they are 6-9. Not all his fault, but certainly a part of it. What else do we have here? Jim Everett the Great says Jimmy G was better. No. I like me some Jimmy G, but no. Bobo says here as well, Sam Darnold, unlike Brock, led his team to victory late. Yeah, Vikings beat the Seahawks today. Maybe that's why it makes the last, like, 3 weeks so tough, because, like, maybe today excluding today, but, like, last week, you could have beat the Rams. The Seahawks lost. Like, there was, like, so much that went right for you last week. And against the Bills, like, had you won that game, like, a lot of things have gone and fallen San Francisco's way. But the lack of execution in these games where it's like, hey, you're getting the help you need, they just can't find a way to get over the hump. Like, a lot of people say, oh, they just weren't good enough. And I would say, no, San Francisco is good enough to just lose. They're not good enough to win, but they're good enough to just lose. Like we've talked long and hard about the offensive line and how bad it's been this year. And it's everything like, oh, like, if they can fix that, it'll go a long way into seeing the offense get back to who they were in previous years. But this is what they paid for, and what they asked for, and what they got themselves into. So it's like they have to go back to the drawing board and refigure this thing back out. And I think they will, but that has to be proven. Buffs Suck. Great name. Says, when was the last time the Rams beat the Niners twice in the regular season? And the Niners won't fire Shanahan? I don't think the head coaching position should be reliant on if you get swept by one team or not. Yes, both those losses were heartbreaking this year. Both those losses should have been wins this year by the Niners. But that has been the entire story of the season. So I really wouldn't, like, oh, you lost to the Rams twice, whatever. Like, okay, cool. Like, those losses hurt, but, like, the Rams are good. Like, that offense is really good. And the defense is playing better. And it's like, yeah, like, the Rams are having a better year. Teams have down years. It happens all the time. Frank Weber says here, how are you going to invest in that kind of loot in a guy that you can't protect? Great question. Great segue. I think it is important conversation to be had regarding Brock Purdy. It is a conversation I believe that the Chiefs had when they wanted to pay Patrick Mahomes. So I am of the belief that if you want to invest in something, you should protect it. If I'm going to invest in a car, I'm going to get insurance for it. If I'm going to invest in somebody, say, right? Like, I have a wife now. I'm going to make sure she is always protected I'm investing in her, right? She is my partner for life. She's investing in me. She wants to make sure I'm okay. So we buy health insurance, right? For the Niners, what is the best insurance to protect your quarterback? I don't know, building an offensive line. Like the Chiefs went out and they lost the Super Bowl in humiliating fashion in front of absolutely nobody during the COVID year in 2020 to the Buccaneers. What do? Next year, we're going to sign Joe Thuney. We're going to draft Creed Humphrey. We're going to draft Trey Smith. They went out and made a concerted effort to say, look, if we're going to pay Patrick and we want to run the football with Pacheco and McKinnon and Kareem Hunt, we have to invest in the offensive line. San Francisco, yes, paid Trent Williams big money. He's a 37-year-old left tackle, 36-year-old left tackle with a bad ankle. But I'm cool with doing that. That's fine. You just got to know that he's going to miss some time. They go and get Dominic Pooning in the third round. Thumbs up. Cool. McKivitz has been fine. He's not the main problem. They're having a bad year. He's there. He ain't great. He hurt him in this game, but I don't hate Colton McKivitz. The problem is they invested a second-round pick into Aaron Banks, and he has been atrocious this year. We're talking missing stunts and just not blocking people on certain plays, like running into his own players, not knowing where to pull, where to go, getting in space and blocking absolutely nobody. Now, I hope Aaron Banks, who got hurt in this game, is not hurt too seriously. He'll be a free agent in like 3 weeks, and I want him to go out there and get paid, whatever he gets paid. But the main focus of the issues we're seeing are interior offensive line. The Chiefs got a left guard, a center, and a right guard. In that one offseason, paid money and 2 draft picks and said, you are our starters. Fix the offensive line. The Niners already have the right guard in place. They have to find a left guard and a center. If it was me, the center class is not great. You go pay for a center, you draft a left guard, and maybe you draft a tackle, right? Give yourself some insurance in case somebody else goes down, because as of now, Spencer Burford's going to play against the Lions next week at left tackle. Not what you want to see happen. And Austin Pleasance will play at left guard next week, or Nick Zakello will play at left guard next week. Not what you want to see happen. But if you're going to pay Brock Purdy 65, 55, whatever it may be, $1 million and pay big money to him and make it harder for your team to buy free agents or improve the roster, if you're not going to pay for the defensive side of football, fine. You have to make an effort to improve your offensive line. We have talked over and over and over again this year. You fix the offensive line, you in a way fix the entire offense. Your running game gets better. We watched all year what the Lions have done to opposing defenses. Like Jared Goff didn't even have to throw the football, and they won by like 45 points early in the season. You want to know why? Good defense for sure, but also this smash mouth, bite your literal kneecaps off offensive line. The offensive line is a unit. It's a weapon. It is something the Philadelphia Eagles utilize so well. They're like, look, we have 5 guys that aren't offensive weapons. We're going to utilize as a whole, as one weapon. We're going to go out there and we're going to attack you with it. San Francisco used to do that, but I'm hoping they can see that, look, teams like the Chiefs and the Eagles and the Lions, they can withstand a bad offensive day from the quarterback or a fumble here or two or a bad defensive day, because we know our quarterback's going to be upright 99% of the time. And because we are like 6 guys deep on the offensive line, we are going to be able to punish almost every opposing defense in the trenches and not lose ground. They have to get back to that. Whether it is Trent and a guard and a center and Pooney and McKay, like they have some building blocks in place, but they have to find replacements for guys that are like literal anchors to the roster. There was a screen pass today to George Kittle to the right. Little flip. It worked multiple times in this game and in previous weeks. Catches it. He's running, and he finds himself kind of in this like big kind of bubble of his own players. So he cuts to his left to get some more space, and then he gets tackled. And you know why he got tackled? Because Jake Brendel is standing there, turned around looking at him like, oh, I missed my block. Oh no, I'm in space one-on-one with a defender that is like 1/3 of my size, and I don't take him on. Don't get a hand on him. Don't put a body on him. How many times have we seen Jake Brendel this year be absolutely lost in a turnstile? In a turnstile. Like just atrocious in how he guards. Like just so bad. So bad. Um Man, like it's frustrating how poor the offensive line is played. So frustrating because it really has brought the entire season down. Like entire season down. Michael says, "Is she investing in you?" In regards to my wife, I certainly hope so. I really hope she is. If not, we have a big problem here. Let's get to more YouTube comments in the chat here. Let's see what we got. Frank says the Niners have built in excuses. Um, there certainly are some excuses. The injuries are certainly some of them, but that's not the big deal. Like it's not like the issues that they've had, yes, are, you know, related to CMC being out and Trent missing time um and Ayuk missing time. Like all those things are true and like can be factual, but it doesn't like they've been good enough to win the games on the field despite the injuries they've had. It's just the piss poor personnel and the lack of execution they've had that has cost them. Like in a meaningless game like this, it costs them. In meaningful games in previous weeks, it's cost them. Like it's just who they are. They're just not a good football team, and they're not good in like the most key moments. Sure, Purdy's pick sucks, whatever, but like the offensive line, the defensive line today could not stop the run to save their lives. And the Dolphins, like they're built so differently. Like they're built with speed and they get in space, and like that's why I was saying like one thing the Dolphins do great, like if you miss tackles and let these guys in space, they're going to eat you alive. That's what happened. And they were just doing screen passes and dump offs and end arounds and like pitches, and they were just getting in open space, using their speed and gashing San Francisco. That's what they do. You saw on the broadcast multiple times. I think it was Romo said, like, these edge rushers aren't getting wide enough. If you let these guys, Achane, Mostert, Hill, and others, with the speed they have, you let them get outside the numbers, they're going to get 10 yards, 20 yards, 30 yards in the snap of the finger. And so you saw later in the game, they did get wider, but like that would have helped them earlier. Joseph Ehrenberg asks a very intriguing question, albeit one I would not even entertain, which is, should we trade Nick Bosa? He could fetch some good picks. Yes, Nick Bosa could fetch you a lot of good picks. The issue is like picks aren't getting you the defensive player of the year, most likely. And Nick's had his health issues this year for sure. The hip and the oblique are a problem, but you don't trade your second best defensive player. What you do is you build around them. And San Francisco will likely have a top 15 pick this year, whether it's an edge rusher or an offensive lineman or whatever it may be. Like they can really be like, look, Nick is the center. He is the core. Now let's build out from Warner and Greenlaw and Ufunga and Mustafa and Green and Lenore. And here's the other edge rusher that is a beast off the other side. And you're like, hell, wow, Leonard Floyd, you're the edge rusher 3. Gross Matos, you're the edge rusher 4. Oh, Drake Jackson's back. Like, it makes everything feel a lot better, more comfortable, better rotations. Like, everyone's fresher. Like, so no, like, trading Nick is not on the table. It shouldn't be. And I'm sure his cap hit is too dang high, to be traded. Let's see if we have any more in here. Bobo says that giving Brock Purdy a big contract in another year with Kyle Shanahan would be a mistake and set the franchise back for years. I don't think giving Kyle and Brock another year together would be a mistake. I think that it would be more appropriate maybe to ask Brock to play on the last year of his contract or giving him a slight raise or more guaranteed money before saying, hey, let's pay the entire, big, massive contract he'll get. But unfortunately, you don't pay for what a player can do. You pay for what a player has done. I think that's kind of being misconstrued. We're like, you hope Brock can get better, and I don't know if he can. Like his level, like his glass ceiling may have been what last year's team could do, which is really great stuff. They should have won the Super Bowl. I think Brock can get back to that, but you're paying for what Brock has done in previous years, not what he can do in the future. I also don't think Brock Purdy being the quarterback of the 49ers will set them back. Like, set them back from what? Like, the moment Kyle Shanahan signs or the organization signs Brock Purdy to that massive contract, like most regimes don't get 3 chances to have a franchise quarterback. The Niners had Jimmy Garoppolo. It was a very successful tenure, albeit tumultuous at times. He got injured. They said, okay, let's get Trey Lance. They got Trey Lance. He was a bust. And they got Brock Purdy. Kind of fell into him, but they had 3 opportunities to get their franchise quarterback. And, for all of you, I'm talking to you, Bobo, here. If you want to fire Kyle Shanahan and you're saying he's never going to get it done, he's a joke, like it's never going to happen, well, then you should be wanting them to pay Brock Purdy. Because if they pay Brock Purdy and they fail, well, then the door is completely open to firing Kyle Shanahan and Brock Purdy. Like, as soon as you tether yourself to a quarterback, you are saying, I'm hitching my wagon to them. Where they go, I will then follow. My job is now connected to them. So if you were on the boat of like, I can't wait to get Kyle out of here, you should be hoping and praying they pay Brock Purdy. Because if they do and they fail, Kyle has to go. It'll be his 3rd swing for a franchise quarterback. At that point, it's like, well, what are we doing here? You've had 3 chances and they've all failed. Like, okay. But still, like, I really don't think that signing Brock to even a big deal would be, it's not going to make or break San Francisco. It may make or break their Super Bowl hopes or chances, but if Brock is, say, in that Dak Prescott category, they're going to be perennially contenders, like wild card, NFC West. They may not go all the way, but they're going to be continual contenders every single year if Brock Purdy's the quarterback. Let's see. Joseph says here in regards to my comment of like you paying players what they've done in the past, not what they can be in the future. He says, no, you should be paying players for what they are capable of doing and can do. That sounds great. I wish that was the case, but so like the Niners could say, look, Brock, we love you a lot, but this year has made us think that you're going to have these projections. And Brock is like, well, that's great and all, but I've been an MVP finalist. I've got you to a Super Bowl. I went to back-to-back NFC championship games and won one of them. And had I not torn my UCL, could have won both of them. I beat out your first-round pick that you traded 3 first-round draft picks for. I was better than the previous quarterback you had starting for you when you were in the previous Super Bowl. Like, yes, in theory, you want to pay for what a player can be and can do. And yes, you are paying Brock for what he's capable of doing. But Brock would say, well, this year, like, let's say this year is what Brock is forever. You're not going to pay Brock the value of this year. You're going to pay Brock what he did in the past years. That's how it works. Like you are going to pay Brock for an MVP final or a finalist run and for going to the Super Bowl. Like that's going to be part of that's on the resume. It's not going anywhere. Take any job, whether it's a radio job or a foreman job, although that's a little different. Like if you're in the media, if you're a movie star and you have Oscar award-winning actor on your resume, you're going to get paid more money. If you have, hey, my movie made $1 billion at the box office, you're going to get paid more money. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is a terrible actor, but his movies usually make a ton of money. Now, The Rock is also getting paid a ton of money because of that. Now, is it right? I don't think so. I think The Rock's a terrible actor. But you are paying him because of the resume. The movie he makes is probably going to suck. It's probably not going to make back the money it was made for. The budget was for it. But you're paying The Rock because there's money, there's value attached to his name. You're going to pay Brock for what the resume attached to his name is. Let's see what else we have here on the YouTube chat. Wow. A lot of interesting comments on the YouTube chat. I'm not going to read off. But let's move on here for a second. I want to get to Deebo Samuel because I don't know about you. I was pretty pissed at Deebo Samuel playing so well in this game. Like, this was the best Deebo had looked all year long. He had 5 carries for 25 yards, 7 receptions for 96 yards. What is that? 12 touches for I don't know, 115 yards, whatever it is, over 100 yards in 1 touchdown. Maybe could have had 2 touchdowns had Pearsall not called for illegal formation. But I was pissed. I was like, oh, now you're playing well. Not in the biggest game of the year against the Rams last week. You're playing good against the Dolphins in a meaningless game in Miami when you're 6-8 and you could be 7-7 fighting for the NFC West still. I was happy for him. It did show us that there is good Deebo Samuel still in him somewhere, but it's too little too late, brother. Man, cool, awesome. There was he was running through 1 defender, 2 defenders, 3 defenders on screen passes. He was getting open in routes. So I was happy to see that Deebo looked the part again, but it was why couldn't you do it last week? Why couldn't you do it 4 weeks ago or 5 weeks ago? Why couldn't you do that the entire year or more throughout the year? So I don't know. It's I was happy, but I was man, what the heck? I'm happy for you, Deebo, but also I'm very pissed at you because of picking in the most misopportune time to be good. This game means nothing. Sean says here, I should stop being a fanboy. Interesting, because Jimmy Garoppolo took them to a Super Bowl, and so did Brock. Different QBs, but same coach. Wake up, fanboy. I'm not really sure who I'm fanboying out for, but everything you said is correct. Yes, Jimmy and Brock both did the exact same thing. Went to the Super Bowl and lost leads late. That said, I don't love Kyle Shanahan. He has a lot of problems. I don't love Brock Purdy. We got a lot of problems. I like Brock Purdy. I like Kyle Shanahan. There's a difference in being a fanboy and being a realist about things for sure. Kyle ain't getting fired, and they're going to pay Brock Purdy. Do I love that? I don't know, but that's the case. What else do we have here on the box score? Let's talk about Ricky Pearsall because he honestly had Jesus says here first, Kyle has to accept going 3 deep running back group carries. Deebo is kind of a running back. You have Christian McCaffrey and you have Garendo and Mason. I don't see how you don't. I don't see how you don't. They have all the bodies in place to be able to do that. All 3 of those guys are capable of doing stuff, and I don't think they'll bring back Elijah Mitchell. Maybe he's cheap. Maybe they do, but it's the running game was terrible today, though. Was terrible. We're talking about, being able to do things offensively and not having a running game, and they were Patrick Taylor Jr. looked like a 5th string running back today. And keep in mind, the Dolphins have a top 10 run defense in football, so I wasn't expecting much. What I wasn't expecting was Brock Purdy to lead the team in rushing yards at 26. When Brock Purdy has 26 rushing yards and that leads your team, that's a problem. But I wouldn't go as far as to say they have to draft a running back. Like they have CMC paying big money to. They have Guerrero played really good when he was healthy. They had Mason, who when he was healthy, he was really good. I mean, you always kind of rotate running backs in, but like you can't ever prepare for being like, this is our fifth string running back playing today. It's never going to be like on the table and never going to be thought of. Like your expectation is, okay, one guy goes down. Now you have your 2 and 3s, and that'll probably carry you the rest of the year. You aren't expecting to lose a guy in the preseason, lose your star back before week 1, then lose your undrafted free agent who becomes a star in week 11, and then lose your rookie this year in week 15. So, like, I don't think they'll draft one, but, I do think that they'll always look into stuff. They always bring in new backs. Like, Keyshawn Vaughn's not going to be here next year. Maybe Abanaconda is a guy we like going forward, but I have to see him more throughout the offseason if he's here. He's under contract, so he'll be here next year most likely. So we shall see. But I do want to talk about Ricky Pearsall because he's getting like the biggest grief on the entire Twitter right now, besides Jake Moody, which Jake Moody's terrible, and he has been, and he sucks. Yeah, don't bring him back next year. Cut him. You can save $600,000 by cutting Jake Moody and move that and sign a UFL kicker for all I care. Just find somebody else that can make a 40-yard field goal consistently. Whether it's Matthew Wright, whether it's finding the ghost of Robbie Gould, I don't care. Find a kicker that can make 40-yard field goals. Like this team should never be kicking 53-yard field goals. He has the 28th best field goal percentage in football. Yet he is the highest drafted kicker in the league currently. Highest drafted kicker, 28th ranked field goal percentage in football. Not going to cut it by any means. Terrible, terrible, terrible. Jesus says here, Sterling, Ricky's weak, doesn't take hits well. I mean, yeah, like Ricky's a smaller receiver. And with Ricky, I go back and forth because like in my head, I'm like, I want to forgive most of the struggles he has. He got shot, didn't have the off-season program. Like there are so many reasons to excuse some of the issues he's had, which I'm all for doing that. I will do that. Like I am banking on Pearsall with the full off-season program, barring health. He is going to look like a whole different receiver next year. Like that is my mindset. That is my hope. Like he has all the skills to be able to be a really, really, really good player in the NFL. But in this game, while Pearsall's play isn't designed to necessarily run through players, like Pearsall is more like, he's more of like your typical kind of slot receiver where he's like a thinner guy. He'll eat you up in space. He has 4.3, 4.5 speed. Like he's a good against man coverage. Like he'll bring the ball down. He has really good hands. Like all those things are true. But like what he's not is George Kittle or Deebo Samuel. He's more of a finesse receiver that has really good hands. And, I don't think that, as Jesus says here, Ricky wasn't going to be there come round 4. He was going to be taken in the second round. And San Francisco said, hey, on the board are a bunch of guys we don't really deem as like, we got to take them. Pearsall on our board is the best guy on our board. And if we wait until the second round, he ain't going to be there. So there is justification behind the pick. Now, that said, Cooper DeJean was still there and other players were still there that probably better than Pearsall now, but on their board, they viewed it as a no. But that also could have been maybe fear of like, we may trade Ayuk and we may trade Deebo. I don't know. But all that said, I am someone that can forgive Pearsall a lot for his blunders and mistakes. What I can't forgive is like basic football things because I thought Ricky in this game wasn't terrible as a receiver. I thought that Ricky in this game was actually really good as a receiver. He had He had 4 catches on 4 targets. He had 37 yards. He had 21 yards and 1 catch. Like, there was a lot to like from Ricky Pearsall as a receiver on the field today. But what you can't have happen is when you are if I can find it here, when you're down 16-10 and you're marching downfield, it's your best drive of the game. The first play of the drive is an 11-yard pass to Deebo Samuel. Then you get a big screen to Kittle. Then you're on 3rd and 1. You get a quarterback sneak. It sets up then a 28-yard pass to George Kittle over the middle with Spencer Burford having a great block on Calais Campbell. And you're like, we're moving. We're driving. We are going to go retake the lead. And you get inside close to the red zone. And on 1st and 10, after the Kittle play, Pearsall gets called for illegal formation. Okay, he wasn't on the line of scrimmage. Okay, it's one time. That sucks. Maybe there was miscommunication, or is Deebo supposed to be on there? Supposed to be Jennings? Like, young player making a mistake. Okay, that sucks. But 1st and 15, incomplete pass to Samuel. 2nd and 15, Purdy doing what you pay him to do, or hope to pay him to do, scrambles for 8 yards, avoids some pressure, and makes it a manageable 3rd and 7. Then, what you're paying Brock to do is, in spite of a penalty, in spite of not his fault, his offense kind of holding them back, on a 3rd and 7, throws a dart to Deebo Samuel for 16 yards, and that would have gotten them to the Miami 2-yard line, essentially giving them a touchdown, right? Or probably shouldn't say that this year. It's been so bad, but in theory, they're going to score a touchdown here. But Pearsall gets called for a second illegal formation, the second time not being on the line of scrimmage. The next play is an incomplete pass, and the next play is a missed field goal. And when Pearsall got called back for what was probably the biggest play of the game, you can see that Kyle Shanahan is screaming at Pearsall on the sideline. Then you see kind of in the corner, wide receiver coach Leonard Hankerson is like screaming at Pearsall. Then you get on the sideline when there's a post-missed field goal and they're sitting down, Pearsall is getting chewed out by Hankerson. And it's like, okay, like, yeah, that's called coaching. Like, he has to learn you can't do that. He should know you can't do that. And Romo kept saying, well, he's only had 3 practices prior to getting shot. That's fine. I get that. He's been active for like 6 or 7 weeks now. Like, he been in practice every single day since he came back. He has not missed a practice since he debuted against the Chiefs. That's been like almost 10 weeks, 8 weeks. He should know better at this point in time. You want to drop a pass, you want to run the wrong route, you want to not have chemistry with your quarterback, fine. That is learning the playbook, learning the offense. People make mistakes. Even the guys that have been there for 10 years make mistakes, right? But this stuff, like not putting your foot on the line of scrimmage, and if you need to, ask, hey, Deebo, hey, I'd rather get this play right than wrong here. And I thought it was great. I love that. Not that he messed up, but like I love the fact that Kyle and Hankerson are like screaming at him, like, you have to know better. You have to be and put your foot on the line, learn the offense. Like, I love that because it shows that, like, look, they know they invested so much in Pearsall. They know that he has to be an integral part of what they want to do offensively going forward. He has to be able to know where his foot should be or should not be on the line of scrimmage and the plays. And so for him to do this, yes, it was backbreaking and it sucked, but I love the fact that they wasted no time pulling him out of the game and yelling at him. It's tough love. This season sucks. You're 6-9 now, and in the last 2 weeks, receivers have cost you the game. It was Deebo against the Rams week and a half ago now. He drops that touchdown pass over the middle. Then today's Pearsall. And sure, there are other things that cost them. Yes, like Jake Moody has to make that field goal. If you make that field goal, then you're only down by 3. And then if they get another field goal, it's 19-13. And maybe you're playing things differently. I don't know. But like at that point in time, the Niners scored a touchdown later. Like Eric Saubert scored a touchdown. You're back. Like he has 7 receptions all year. He got his 3rd career touchdown pass in this game. Like you would have been down. You would have been leading 20-19 had you made the darn field goal. Like you would have been up 2019. But everything spiraled from there. The minute Pearsall got called for the penalty, everything spiraled. And it set everything back. I believe it's Andrews. Moto has a comment on the YouTube chat saying, honestly, asking how much money are invested in certain players and how can they operate within the cap space. I don't have the over the cap or the spoke track in front of me here, but the Niners, as of now, have $65 million in cap space. Maybe it's a little under that now, but $65 million in cap space. They are going to projected to have about $55 million next season. While Brock Purdy will get a big raise, it's going to be a low cap hit compared to other quarterbacks in year 1, 2, maybe 3. You're also going to see other people's caps go up and down throughout the times, but they can release JavonHargrave and save some money. They can cut Deebo Samuel and save about $8 million this offseason. They're going to be fine. Like, they're probably not going to pay, they're not going to go pay for a big name free agent, but I think they are going to have enough cap flexibility to bring back, say, Hufanga and bring back Dre Greenlaw, which I really love Dre Greenlaw, but the fact that his calf on the other legs flared up again, like, you really got to wonder, like, is it worth it? Like, the last thing you want to do is pay Greenlaw $8 to $10 million per year, and then boom, it's done. Like, the last thing you want to have is a what if, or what could Greenlaw could have been, right? Which, Bobo, you're actually wrong here. If they pay Brock, they are not going to have to say goodbye to almost anybody. Mooney Ward's gone. Deebo's over the hump already. He's 29 next year. Hargrave was fine for like 3 games this year and got hurt. You can say goodbye there. Like, they're not losing anybody that's like a big, like, integral part of the team. Kittle's still there. Lenore's still there. Mustafa, Green, Bosa's locked up. Like, Warner's still there. Like, they're not losing anybody by not paying Brock Purdy, and who they are losing is like guys that you would kind of say, oh, okay, whatever. Like, I'm cool watching Mooney Ward leave. Like, he gave up a touchdown today, and Mooney Ward, I get his year has been terrible with his daughter passing away, but you have inside leverage. Like you just can't let the guy go outside. So you play more outside. And what does he do? Lets Hill get outside. Boom, touchdown. I'm good letting Lenore and Green and having another cornerback come in there and play. Whoever it is, I'm good. That said, want to say hi to Chester in the YouTube chat, but Jesus says here, Greenlaw is a top 5 linebacker, not very many good linebackers in football. I agree with you. When Greenlaw is fully healthy, he's an amazing linebacker. We saw it against the Rams. We saw it the last couple of years. I just worry about, can he stay healthy? You have to think about this. Last year, he was having pain in, I think, his left Achilles or his left calf. In the Super Bowl, his right Achilles popped. Now he's back from recovery from the right Achilles popping and tearing, and his left calf acted up again. Like, that is not a player that I want to invest in. I love Dre Greenlaw. I have his jersey in my room, in my closet. But when it comes down to it, it's like, I'll give you a 1-year prove-it deal that you can stay healthy. I'm not investing big money into you. Like, if you can't stay healthy, what are you worth? I love Dre, but come on. Joshua says here, Tommy Huxley says here, what if you pay Greenlaw and he gets hurt again? Exactly. Like, why would you do that? Like, 1 year prove it deal, $6 million, stay healthy, cool. I'm good with that. But I'm not giving you a 3-year, $27 million deal or a 2-year contract. I have to know you're going to be healthy before I do that. I do want to get to Joshua's comments here about Brock Purdy. He says, Purdy threw another horrible interception when we needed him the most. It's crazy to think if Purdy made a good decision, we would have won the game. He made a bad decision after bad decision, and it cost a touchdown and almost another pick six. So he also says here, this game should have been 35 or 36-17, in my opinion, if that Dolphins guy caught that pick six, but he dropped it. I don't think, like, there was the interception early on, I think, that was almost caught, but hit the ground. That big defensive lineman caught it, which would have been a crazy play, but and would have really summed up things for the Niners this year. But, I mean, whatever. Like, that play doesn't bother me. When it's 2 minutes left in the game and, like, you have a chance to win and you throw a pick that was dumb, that bothers me more than anything. So I get it, Joshua. I don't think it should have been 35-17 or 16. I do think, though, this game should have been, at least 24-22 San Francisco, or dare I say 28-23, 28-22 San Francisco. It certainly could have been that way. I wouldn't give San Francisco 36 points, but it definitely could have been better than it was today. Like, this offense, and like I have said this for months, I am more worried about San Francisco's offense than I am the defense. The defense held the Rams to 6 points. The defense held the Dolphins to 22 points. The defense early in the year held the Cardinals to 24 points. So many times this year, the defense, despite their struggles, have come up big or held the opposing team to 24, 26 points. And the offense can muster just 17 or just 6 points. The fact that a Kyle Shanahan-led offense with George Kittle and Deebo Samuel and Juwan Jennings and first-round pick Ricky Pearsall and eventual, maybe highest-paid quarterback of all time, Brock Purdy, has mustered 23 points in the last 2 games. The Dolphins had 22 points in this game alone. Like, that's inexcusable. That is, like, bafflingly terrible. Like, you just can't look at this and say, oh, well, the defense was bad. It was only 22 points. Yeah, they couldn't defend the run. I agree. They had their problems too. Only allowed 22 points. Like, people keep making too many excuses. Well, the offense is playing bad, but the defense gave up 22 points. And it's like, okay, and 22 points is nothing in the 2024 version of the NFL. Nothing. The average point is like 26 a game. Like, the friggin' tight end, the Titans put up like 30 points against the Colts today. Like, bad offenses put up more than 22 points. Like, and the Dolphins aren't great on offense by any means, but it's like the defense did their job and gave the offense another chance to win. And the offense didn't get it done for like the 10th time this year. Bobo says here that the Niners gave Christian McCaffrey $40 million and they knew he was all effed up. I can't disagree with you there. They may not have known the extent of his injury in regards to like having to go to Russia to get it fixed and whatever, but like his Achilles was bothering him last year. And he had the entire offseason, and I was at practice for part of the year, part of the offseason program. Like, they are very patient and very, I guess you can say, like, willing to give their guys days off and like don't push their guys. And like CMC 2 years ago was always out there. He was nowhere to be seen this year. And they still paid him big money. Now, maybe he wasn't seen because of the contract stuff, but it was like, I have a hard time disagreeing with you, Bobo. Like, they paid Christian McCaffrey with knowing that something was up with him. Now, again, maybe it wasn't the extent as to which they knew how bad it was, but Now he's hurt again with the PCL injury. So who knows? Who knows? I can't think of anything else to talk about in regards to the game. It sucked. The screen passes were like, it's just a rough year, man. Like a really rough year for a team that should be better. That really, like, they should not be 6-9. Like, if a lot of their games have come down to one play. Against the Rams, it was the drop pick or the drop touchdown for Deebo, then the pick later to Juwan. Then in this game, it was the Pearsall penalties that negated the Deebo big play. Like, a lot of their games come down to one big play. Against the Rams early in the year, it was the Ronnie Bell drop and the Moody missed field goal. Against the Cardinals early in the year, it was that fumble by Mason at the goal line. And you're just like, oh, like, man, oh man. Like, we have been one play away in like 4 or 5 different games this season. Had they broke our way, we'd be sitting here like, oh, we're 10-7. We're 10-6. Like, wow. But that's the NFL. Good teams find ways to win. Bad teams don't. This year, for a variety of reasons, the San Francisco 49ers are a really bad team. Hence why they are not going to the playoffs for the first time since 2020. Michael says here in our last comment on YouTube, the 49ers should just rest Purdy for the next 2 games or split QB snaps. I'll be supporting my daughter's Eagles for the rest of the year. Eagles? The Eagles? At least be a Lions fan, brother. At least be a Packers fan or a Buccaneers fan. I mean, the Eagles, come on. Oh, like, be a Vikings fan, man. The Purple People Eaters are back. But I will say this. You cannot rest Brock Purdy. You cannot rest Brock Purdy when you're trotting out a broken-ankled Fred Warner. When Nick Bosa is playing through a hip and an oblique injury. When Dre Greenlaw is trying to play with a major calf injury off an Achilles injury. You just can't do that. That said, like, if I'm the Niners, I'm like pushing Brock to be better. I think Brock wants to get better. Like, if I'm San Francisco, what I want to see against the Lions and the Cardinals, it's like, I want to see both those games have 2-minute game-winning drives by Brock Purdy. Go out there and show me you can do it. The odds you beat Detroit are really slim. You're probably going to get boat race, but like, I want to see Brock play clutch. You have your backs against the wall, a terrible team you have this year against a really good Lions team. Go out there and beat them, or at least give them hell for 4 quarters. Play them tough. You're defending your own place. Like, go out there and give them hell. Like, they want to annihilate you on your own home field, embarrass you. Like, hey, go out there and spoil the, like, imagine Brock Purdy and the Niners beating the Lions and then the Vikings becoming the number 1 seed or the number 2 seed. Wouldn't that be something? That would be crazy. It's not going to happen, but you never know. Jesus says here, are the Niners really better, or was 2023 a mirage? I don't think 2023 was a mirage because they were really good in 2021 and 2022. Now, the NFL has its ebbs and flows, and things go up and things go down. I think this is a down year for San Francisco. They have to make the right moves to get better and get right. But we saw the Eagles were bad last year, and they came roaring back this season. They got their Christian McCaffrey and Saquon Barkley. Health would help San Francisco a ton. But you got to fix the offensive line and also get healthy. So I don't think last year was a mirage. I think they are better than 6-9. I think 1 or 2 plays have separated them from being a 10-win team this year, as of now. And they haven't played great at all. Like, they've had one, like, really complete game. That was the Bears game. Maybe that Seahawks game in Seattle, but even that wasn't great. But I don't think last year was a mirage. I just think that this year's been so bad it makes last year feel like it was a mirage in retrospect. Yes, Michael, they have to cut Moody. Got to find somebody else. And Teddy Bridgewater wants to come back and play for the Niners. I know he wants to come back, but I mean, he could back up Brock Purdy. I wouldn't mind that. We all love Teddy B here. We all love Teddy B. But it's all I have for you today. Yes, they got to get defensive line, and yes, they got to get a right tackle and a center and a left guard. But, that's the way things go. That said, I want to wish you all a Merry Christmas. I will talk to all of you, most likely, previewing the Niners versus Lions game next Monday, I believe, in prime time. Yeah. Thank you all for watching. Hope you can like, share, subscribe, leave that review. Been here for an hour and 20 minutes. If you like what you heard, like what you saw, leave that like on the way out. And if you could, follow us on social media at 49ers Access. 49ers _access is the X for Twitter. 49ers.access is the Instagram. If you're on YouTube, you can see it right here on your screen below. If you want to go see a football game this year, you want to celebrate the holidays in the style of an NBA game this year on Christmas Day, you can go to SeatGeek.com and use our promo code 49ers Access, 49 ERS ACCESS at SeatGeek.com and save yourself $20 off your first purchase. And if you are waiting like a hungry lion for the next Niners news of injury updates or podcast articles, YouTube videos, go to sportsspyder.com. It's your one-stop shop for everything about your favorite teams in one place just for you. As Michael says here, happy holidays. Hope you have a great Christmas and a new year. It's almost 2025. The year is flying by. Same back at you, Michael. Same back at you, Jesus, Tommy Huxley, Bobo, Joshua Mars, Chester Chotke, so many others in the YouTube chat. Thank you for watching, listening, liking, sharing, and subscribing. Merry Christmas back at you, 916_49ers. And don't forget to like, share, subscribe, leave that review. Give us a 5-star review on the audio podcasting platforms. And as always, my name is Sterling Bennett. And until next time, stay faithful.